Did you know that carrying extra belly fat can be more dangerous to your health than generalized obesity? And listen, this is not about appearance, it's about health. Today we're going to look at why belly fat matters, the serious health risk it brings, and what you can start doing today.
I'm Dr. Vicki Petz Casper. I practiced obstetrics and gynecology for 20 years until I landed on the other side of the sheets as a very sick patient. When my own body betrayed me, I took a handful of pills to manage my disease and another handful to counteract the side effects. My health was out of control. Through surgery, medications, and lots of prayers, I regained my strength only to face another diagnosis. My doctor challenged me to make radical changes through lifestyle medicine. Now I feel great and I want to help you make changes that make a difference. Healthy Looks Great on You podcast takes you to many medical schools so you can learn the power of lifestyle medicine. If you're ready to take control of your health, you're in the right place. Whether you're focused on prevention or you're trying to manage a condition, I'll give you practical steps to start your own journey toward better health, because healthy looks great on you.
This is episode 170, Belly Fat. Are you in the danger zone? One day when I was about 55 years old, I looked down and gasped, "What is that?" Genetically, I'm a pear, not an apple, so I've never been prone to gain weight in my belly. I always said the good Lord hid it in the back, so I didn't have to look at it. But here it was, this roll in my lap that I could not ignore, and I did not like it. Not only did it change the way my clothes fit, carrying around a proverbial spare tire is uncomfortable. So I decided to do something about it, and so can you. But first, let's talk about why it matters. Belly fat increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, which remains the #1 killer of Americans. The medical term for belly fat is visceral fat. And the more you have, the higher your risk for conditions that are terrible for your health when they're high, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar. All of this can lead to type 2 diabetes, heart attack, stroke, and metabolic syndrome, even if your BMI is normal. I promise there is some good news, but I'm not finished with the bad news yet. Increased visceral fat has been associated with certain types of cancer, fatty liver, and sleep apnea. And you can just hit rewind on all that stuff about cardiovascular disease because sleep apnea is also a contributing factor for high blood pressure, stroke, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. It's a cycle that needs to stop. Visceral fat puts a load on your lungs and causes inflammation, making you more prone to pulmonary diseases like asthma. And it affects your digestive system, increasing heartburn and even migraines. But there's one more deadly thing. Excess visceral fat affects longevity, and it nearly doubles the risk of premature death. This is heavy stuff. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Let's go to mini medical school and learn about visceral fat. And in an upcoming episode, you're going to advance to the operating room for a direct look. So make sure you're signed up to get the next episode straight to your inbox so you don't miss your surgery rotation. There's a link in the show notes. You've likely heard the term visceral used in a couple of different ways. First, it refers to a strong reaction, as in a visceral response. And this is tied to the anatomical meaning because it's associated with the gut. Think gut reaction. But it's so much more than just the intestines. Visceral means all the big organs inside the abdominal cavity. And you might remember those old Special K commercials where they marketed the cereal for those trying to lose weight if they could pinch more than an inch. Whoa, times have changed. I think most of us would be satisfied with far more inches than one. And I guess as a society, they gave us an inch and we took a mile. But here's the deal. What you can grab between your thumb and finger at your waistline isn't really where the danger lies. It's the fat that covers those organs inside your body cavity that fly you straight to the danger zone. Like I said before, this class is advanced and you've got to have a strong stomach to get through medical school today. I'm going to describe some graphic images, so buckle up. I'm going to tell you about my very first patient, Flo. She was a real lady, but I have no idea what her real name was. Her family graciously donated her body to science, and she was my cadaver during medical school. We spent a lot of time together, and in retrospect, this seems really weird, but during my first year of medical school, they had family day, and my parents attended, and we were taken on a tour of the cadaver lab, which is kind of disgusting if you think about it. The smell of formaldehyde emanating from those stainless steel covers was overpowering. And my college roommate was also one of my med school classmates, so our families kind of walked together through the lab and passed by her cadaver case first. Her team had affectionately named him John. And when my mom got to Flo's case, she said, "Vicki, why does your case have all of this greasy, yellow, globby stuff all over it? Your friend's is very clean." "Yeah, Mom. John, skinny as a rail, and Flo, well, she was kind of fluffy, inside and out." In fact, when we got to her aorta, it was so sclerotic that I am 100% sure her cause of death was cardiovascular disease, and she wasn't nearly as old as John. Now, sorry if I grossed you out, but that's what adipose tissue looks like. Greasy, yellow globs. And while it's perfectly normal to have some pinchable padding around your middle, your booty, your thighs, and your upper arms, it is not normal for it to accumulate around your organs. And more importantly, it's not healthy, and that's why we're here. I assume you want to stay out of the danger zone, right? Well, let's tell that belly fat what Iceman told Maverick in Top Gun. "You're everyone's problem. That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous." Now listen, fat doesn't fly in the air, but you get the picture. So how do you know if you're in the danger zone? It's not the number on the scales. That's merely a definition of your relationship with gravity. And it's not what you can pinch around your middle. That's subcutaneous fat or fat under the skin. Although slimming down does shrink your waistline, and what you can see is often an indicator of what's unseen on the inside. Because here's what happens. Your body is designed to store energy as fat under certain circumstances. And listen carefully, it is not as simple as calories in, calories burned, and we'll get to that later. But think of it this way. If you're like me and prone to gain in the back, then when that gets full, it will start accumulating in the front, and when that's full, it builds up on the inside, around your liver, intestines, ovaries, and even your heart. And Maverick replied, "That's right, I'm dangerous. Yes, belly fat, you are very dangerous." Now, when we dissected Flo, we could see the effects of visceral adipose tissue in several of her organs. What we couldn't see is the physiology, which is the class that comes right after gross anatomy, about 10 o'clock in the morning. I told you this episode was heavy. You see, fat cells don't just sit there and take up space. They secrete hormones, and that can cause all kinds of imbalances in the body, including decreased sensitivity to insulin, and that contributes to the development of type 2 diabetes. In the show notes, I put a link to the episode on type 2 diabetes. Adipose tissue also secretes cytokines, which are inflammatory, and that's terrible for your body, and it's one of the reasons for increased risk of cardiovascular disease. This globby, greasy yellow tissue also cranks out a precursor to something called angiotensin. That's a protein that makes your blood pressure go up. Gosh, just thinking about all of this may make your blood pressure go up. And look, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but when something doubles your risk of dying prematurely, it might be time to do something. So, how do you know if it's time to be concerned about belly fat? This might be a Jimmy Buffett scenario where it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but to know if it's time, you don't need a clock. You need a tape measure. And no cheating. Inhale, exhale, and relax. Don't suck it in like those before and after pictures. And don't try to hit the hourglass spot. Instead, you want to put the tape measure right around your belly button, just above your hip bone. It needs to be snug, but don't cinch it up. And if you don't have a flexible cloth tape measure, then just take a string, pull it around your waist, lay it out, and put the tape measure on it. Ladies, you are in the red zone if your waist circumference is more than 35 inches, and gentlemen, over 40 inches is unhealthy. And if you're thinking, geez, I'm not doing that because I already know it's time to get serious about that, then listen, I want you to do it anyway. And here's why. Every additional 2 inches ups your risk by 10%. And that doesn't really sound fair, does it? And if you're in the habit of regularly weighing yourself, then you know the number on the scale varies depending on how much fluid retention you have and even whether or not you've had a bowel movement and what time of day it is. But measuring your waist is a good way to measure your progress. Your waist circumference can help you know if you're moving in the right direction because, listen, waistlines are sneaky, and this can help you know if yours is growing over time. With any journey, you need to know where you're starting and where you want to go before you can determine the steps needed to get there. So go ahead and measure your waist so that you know where you are today. Then, let's do this together. I've spent a lot of time today talking about the dangers of excess belly fat, and I promise I'm not going to leave you without solutions. In fact, I'm going with you on this trip. I measured my waist today, and even though it is in the normal range, it's far closer to the danger zone than I'd like. A few months ago, that roll came back and sat in my lap and introduced itself to me, and so I made some radical changes and lost it. 8 pounds in 2 weeks, which is a lot for someone who is only 5 foot tall. And I did not do it with willpower. And let me repeat that. I did not do it with willpower or medications for that matter. Now, I gained some of it back because if I'm honest, I think it was too much too fast for my body and I did some things wrong. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to thoughtfully give it another run and I'm inviting you along. And it doesn't matter where you're starting either. What matters is that you get a plan to get you to your destination. So here's what I've got for you. First of all, make sure you're on my email list because that's where I'm going to share exactly what I'm doing and how it's going. And there's an added challenge to build in some grace because I have an upcoming trip for my husband's birthday and I see a little creme brulee in our future. If you think you're on my email list and you're not hearing from me every single week, then check your junk mail or your spam folder. And remember, the more you open the emails, the more likely they'll land in your inbox where they're supposed to be. And if you aren't on my email list, you can go to my website, www.healthylooksgreatonyou.com, or you can just go to the show notes and there's a link there to sign up. And I'd also like to invite you to follow me on Facebook. Just search for Dr. Vickie, but remember it's Vickie. And lastly, there are a few other resources that you might find helpful on my website. And remember, the goal is not to wear an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. It's to get rid of the excess yellow globby stuff that's trying to kill you so that you can be healthy. Because healthy looks great on you.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.